Welcome everyone to another Unity live stream. I'm your host, Manuel Sensity. And yes, I know Jackson is not here. Don't worry, he's coming back soon. But today we're going to talk about getting started with UI Toolkit and World Space UI. And for those of you that might not know, 6.2 is out. Unity Editor version 6.2 is out. And there's a lot of very cool stuff that have appeared in this version, including the World Space capability for UI Toolkit. So today we'll be talking about all of that. And if you are more of a UGUI, the original Unity UI system, don't worry, there will be some interesting tips that we'll be sharing as well, best practices. You know, my role at Unity is to be a senior developer advocate, but I have a background in design. So I will be also sharing some of my experience on that floor. And before we get started, I just wanted to tell you about something that's happening later this year in November. Are you aware of what is Unite? Please, Jack, show us a little bit of that splash screen. So feel free to drop everything, take your phone, take a quick snap of this QR code. And I hope to see you in Barcelona, November 19 and 20 to join the community with a lot of exciting stuff. Basically, Unite 2025 is a way to reconnect with the Unity community, and we'll be returning to Spain for another 2 full days of learning, November 19th, like I said, and 20th. Networking, memorable experiences. We'll be showcasing inspiring stories, demos, sessions, and our annual keynote, as always, with some after-hours events and more. So for more information, go on unity.com/unite. I'll be dropping the link right now in the chat. But right now, this is all about UI Toolkit. So I want to welcome Benoit and Esteban to the stage right now. Welcome, guys. Yes.
Hey, thank you.
Hey everyone, how are you? Oh my
It's not
God.
your first time on the Unity live stream. So for those that have never seen you before, can you give us a quick round of intro? Maybe let's start with Esteban.
Sure thing. There we go, centering my tabs. All right, then. Hi everyone. For those of you not met before, my name is Esteban. I am a developer advocate as well. You know, I work alongside with Manu. You've probably seen Mike Geig, our kind of like a fearless principal advocate as well. And yeah, we just go around the world, or sometimes here on these live streams, and kind of spread the good word of like new Unity technologies or existing ones, and we kind of do like a good overview and see what's up, play around with it, make it a learning experience, and have fun along the way.
Yes.
Like,
What about you, Benoit?
Hi, I'm Benoit. I'm based in Montreal. So I work mostly with the UI team, which is also located in this region of the world. So we cover with everything related to UI Toolkit, the authoring workflows, text, even localization and accessibility. And my role as a product manager is to really understand how to use, you folks are using our features, and what can we do? What can we build next so you're either like more productive, or you can build more exciting stuff for your games. So I'm here to also learn about what's on your mind, what you wish you had that you're still missing, and what can we improve to make a better product for you guys.
Awesome. And Benoit is in Montreal like me, but as I always do, I like to know where you guys are joining us from. So I dropped in the chat a quick question, and we have already people responding. We have people from Alabama. Hello, Mr. Awesome. Hello, The Bull, always there for our live stream. I appreciate you. We have people from all over the world, London, Brazil. It's amazing to see you guys. Happy Tuesday indeed. Thank you, Andrew. So yeah, let's get right into it. So we want to look at a quick overview of what is UI Toolkit, what is it for, what can we do with it? And for that, we have Esteban that's going to be kind enough to share his screen and show us right into the editor some fun demos. But maybe before we jump into it, you might give us a quick overview of what it is.
Sure. So actually, Benoit, the actual. I think I'd rather like have Benoit give like a little overview, at least like an introduction to the product, especially like he's one of the core people that are working in this awesome product.
Good.
How would you describe UI Toolkit, Benoit?
Well, UI Toolkit was a framework we started developing several years ago, which was meant as a replacement for when we started to replace IMGUI, so we can build more ambitious tools for the editor. This is where we started releasing, shader graph and VFX graph, which relied on having more complex and sophisticated user interfaces elements for the editor. And we remember back then the first time we did a Unite talk showcasing UI Toolkit for building editor workflows. The first question from the audience was, "All right, can we use it for runtime?" Right? This looks very exciting. This having access to advanced, layouting capabilities and styling and dedicated authoring workflows seems very appealing. So we kind of pivoted a bit on our roadmap and made sure that we release that in 2021. And since then, we've been improving the framework, adding more features, more capabilities. And 6.2, we released one of the most requested feature was to leverage UI Toolkit, but to make world space UI for XR interactive, or just like cool looking diegetic user interfaces for games as well. So
alert. Sometimes I hear very complex words and I need to explain them because not everybody is fluent. So diegetic. I was about to speak a little bit on that during the best practices section, but maybe you can give us a quick overview of what it is. What is non-diegetic? What is diegetic?
What's diegetic is described as what's being actually part of the world, of the environment, that actually your character can actually see the element and interact with it. Right, it's really part of the experience. Rather than diegetic is more like you as a player are aware of this existence and how to interact with it, but it's more like of a information that is conveyed to the player rather than being part of the experience.
Love that. A good example is the head-up displays in movies like Iron Man, for example. That's like a HUD in the movie. Of course, it is inside the helmet. He sees it, but when you play a video game, your minimap is not something that your character knows about. It's something that as a player you see. So that's non-diegetic versus something that diegetic would be in the world, like thinking of games like Dead Space. In Dead Space, the health bar is literally integrated into the suit. So that's a very good example of how you can play around and not necessarily have just screen space interfaces. Thanks for that, Benoit.
Sure.
So Benoit, wait a minute, quick question. So what you're telling us is that even the fact that UI Toolkit has been available at runtime for these many years actually started by customers requesting this as well from back in the day.
Yes, that's very true. Because there is our existing frameworks are beloved by a lot of custom Unity users, and we were at a point where we felt like we reached limitations in terms of scalability with regard to performance and workflows and how we can have more different type of users using our technology. So we felt like we kind of have something that is broadening the accessibility to who can use these frameworks, and felt like UI Toolkit once we started putting out there, a lot of people responded quite positively, especially those coming with a web background. Felt like, oh, there's a lot of, or many of the components and the language that I can relate. I can transpose existing knowledge to it.
Actually, that's a good quick parenthesis on that. I see a question from Mistra007 in the chat. And by the way, feel free to drop questions in the chat. We have a specific commentary section at the end, Q&A. But if we see relevant question, we'll be happy to interject and just respond to them. But Mistra is asking, why would someone use this UI Toolkit over UGUI, and what problem is UI Toolkit trying to solve in UGUI? And I might not have the perfect answer to that, but one of the ways that I see it from a designer perspective is that UI Toolkit is trying to tackle the problem of designing an interface in a very similar way than web development has been doing it, with HTML, which becomes our UXML, versus the CSS for the style sheet for controlling all of your visuals in one specific section that affects all of your interface buttons and icons and so on, which is our USS in UI Toolkit. That doesn't mean there is a good or bad way to go about it. And if you're very specialized in UGUI, continue to do so. Unity is not dropping support on UGUI. We're just trying to make it very simple for UI Toolkit developers. And the World Space update from 6.2 was a good opportunity to talk about it today.
Yep, that's very good. And if I can add to that, I mean, what you touch on is the separation of concern, right? So I can iterate on some part of the UI, on the styling, or just the layout or the logic, and without stepping on each other's toes. As you scale up your production, you want to pour in more content in your game, build more user interfaces. And then you're right, the global style management is a very, very powerful thing. You can make changes that will affect the entire UI in just a matter of seconds, right? If you build your styling rules in a nice way, this is very powerful and flexible, and you can do a lot of because you can. Some will say, well, you can do that with prefabs, but I can make a prefab for my button, and then I can change my prefabs, which is true. But there's also an element of compositing, right? You can compose different style rules as you make up your games. I want to add rounded corners to my elements, and this can be a label, this can be a button, but this style can be applied to any kind of different elements. Or even animations, right? With transitions, you can really build quickly some nice animations that you can throw around in the entire UI, and are very easy to apply and are driven by style rules. So easy to deploy, easy to change, easy to to manipulate, and all of these can be also, especially when you work with source control. They're all text-based assets, so whenever you have a merge conflict, it's easy to see, like, all right, so what's the original source file? What are my changes? How can I easily merge them? So you run into very few conflicts as you scale up your production. So
that's a very good point that you just added over there. I've myself played a lot, and Esteban knows that we had some hackathon internally, and I was playing with the source control, and having the UI toolkit clarity at this level was super key for me as well.
Oh,
awesome.
Thank you. All righty. Manu, should we show some stuff then?
Let's do it. I know people, as always in the chat, they're like, when are we going to see the editor? Well, it's now, okay? We're going to get into it.
Alrighty. So I'm going to be switching my screen. Let me put
Mr. Awesome just said, I like how UI Toolkit supports SOC for the UI and code. Yes, exactly.
Heck yes. All right. So if we can get, there we go. Now, okay. Just for a little bit. We haven't gotten to the editor yet, but I wanted to give a shout out to the UI Toolkit team, because we're about to dive into this very cool sample that I found recently, that I knew about it, but I hadn't had a good chance to play with it. And if you're not aware, the UI Toolkit sample team has put this great resource together, which is called QuizU, and
quite recent. That was May 2025.
Yeah. Like check it out, like and even to this day, like the latest release version is Unity 6.1. So this has been updated, and you can definitely trust it. By
the way, Esteban, I want to give the credits to the content marketing team who made that demo. It's Eduardo's team worked on that.
Yeah,
it was Eduardo's team. Oh,
yes,
they're amazing.
Yes.
Okay, so we're gonna be seeing, in a way, like two resources from that team. Then
they do it all. They are amazing.
Oh man, like shout out to Eduardo. And by the way, folks, this is the same team that actually even wrote. There we go. Like these amazing ebooks that are about UI Toolkit or shaders or BFX are very small but very powerful team. Like create all this amazing content. So
tiny but
yes. So, and by the way, we have all these links that we can share with you later. But
I'm actually dropping them right now in the chat. And a quick parenthesis on that, as I see some comments coming. Someone said, Gaz on Twitch, I don't even know if I'm using UI Toolkit. So we'll make it clear in the demo how to actually enable it and play with it, as opposed to UGUI. And also Mr. Awesome saying, oh, are you talking about the Dragon one? I'm sure you're referring to Dragon Crashers, which is the sample that we have on the asset store, which is still available and amazing. But Esteban was talking about the QuizU, which is another UI Toolkit sample that we discovered that came out this year. So both
I got Dragon Crashers ready just in case. Like,
there you go. You see,
like
I'll still link it in the chat so that people can play with it. But
quick note about the QuizU project was a response after the Dragon Crasher. A lot of the feedback was it's amazing. I get to see an entire game UI built UI Toolkit, but it's very hard to kind of get in and get to a specific concept
Right.
or part of the framework. So they made QuizU, so it's more bite-sized, fewer isolated examples, so you can get your mind around a different feature or concept.
Ranoka said QuizU is an amazing sample project.
Yes.
Well, thank you to that. We'll make sure to let the team know.
So honest, wow. To be honest, Benoit, I did not know that it was the CMM team that created. I thought it was the. I would have bet my entire savings of $250 that that it
All right.
that it was the UI
Remind me to
Toolkit.
bet with you in the future.
The value also of QuizU, like Esteban said, is that it's updated for Unity 6 versus Dragon Crashers. I believe the original release was for 2021.3.
Around that time frame, yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh, I'm getting
To answer your question, FW Corey, it was not, I think, up to date with the new branch, but still something that you can play with and learn from.
There we go. Closing a little bit. Some resources. I'm going to open those later. But here we go. Here we are in QuizU. Now, this project actually contains. Why is it called QuizU? Because it actually contains actual quizzes that you can go ahead and play. And in all of it, all of this project is entirely made in UI Toolkit. And so all these little thumbnails, all these little these animations, all of them made with UI Toolkit. It's really cool. And you even have multiple quizzes that you can take just for fun, like between you and your coworkers or your friends. And there's a quiz about audio. There's a quiz about VFX. There's a quiz about Unity. And this one right here, I started diving into it. Programmer, object-oriented programming, around 15 minutes play time. So let's actually check it out for a little bit. So we go ahead and play, and we see the first question. Like if something says like "Hello there" in the console, like what was the code used to create that message? So I believe that this one we can go ahead and safely say that debug log, hello there. You submit, and yes, correct answer. Very cool. Like,
well done.
And you might not, yeah. Like, I'm gonna tap myself on the back with like the easiest, like the easiest Unity, not even 101. It's like 000 level question.
Are you cheating? Do you have the answers on the side?
To be, oh man. Manu, please don't expose me like that.
One thing that I love is that we do hear the little sound effects. So
really
cool to see that.
Oh, sweet. There we go. I thought y'all. Okay, perfect. So it even has a little bit of sounds, and it actually even has a little bit of music as well.
Look at that.
There you go.
There you go. It's like a kind of like a game show thinking
Jeopardy,
music.
yeah.
But yeah, like definitely you have more questions like this, and in fact, you even have a little bit of HP of like how many guesses you have remaining. So, but one of the coolest things that I saw, like not only this, but if you go to this section right here, which is demos, it has basically an Unity project full of many mini tutorials explaining different aspects and different features of UI Toolkit. So
and there's a slider there. So you actually had to scroll to see some of those other examples.
Exactly. That's what's up. And it was so cool. So it even starts all the way from the very beginning, like just what the heck is a UXML? Like Manu and Benoit were talking. We're talking about that. A lot of the assets, a lot of the workflow is really influenced on web development. And in web development, especially for those of you that you might know, you work with HTML files or XML files, but UXML is like the Unity. It's Unity flavored XML, but it behaves very much so like the regular HTML and XML in the workflows. And same thing with the styling. Instead of like web development of CSS, we have USS. But really, a lot of the code can actually work like one-to-one CSS to USS. So it's very accessible to people with that kind of experience. But if we go over here in this project, we actually have explaining what is the UXML, which is the UXML describes the structure, and when you go ahead and you hover over these elements, you actually see every time you hover over an element, it actually shows you over there on the bottom the hierarchy and the structure of of the actual element. So even when you go ahead and select the button, it actually shows you the parenting of that button. And then if you go ahead and into this inner button right here, it also highlights it and also shows you like how is it structured. And same thing with the container, and even this little text field right here. Oh, check it out. Yes, I can. Hello there. Yes. So that is one way of like shows you a little bit like how you can organize a visual tree or the structure of your UI. If you
That's
go
very
back
straightforward. I love that they show it in context as well. Also,
in
quick hello to everyone joining us a little bit late. Hi, Divina. Hi, everybody else. Just a quick pause. We're basically showcasing UI Toolkit as an overview, and then we'll get into World Space UI. But feel free to drop your question in the chat. We might not answer that as they come, but we'll have a section at the end for Q&A. So feel free to continue to drop your questions.
So next up over here, this one was really cool. Like the flex layout. So basically, how objects are organized within a particular node or a particular visual element. So, and as you can see, we have like these 9 little items over here. And but by the way, this is still sometimes like something that I'm struggling. Sometimes struggling a little bit to fully understand. Like Benoit and Manu, how would you describe like the Flexbox? Like
Yeah.
how?
Go ahead, Benoit. Maybe I think you might be more suited.
Well, well, I mean, it's a system essentially that describes how elements will be distributed into a container, but in a sequence. And it's very flexible and powerful system, but I hear a lot of people are struggling with it, and rightly so, because it's very complex. Right, there's a lot of rules. If you want to achieve a certain outcome, I want a vertical, distribution, or I want a horizontal one, and then which parameters, which properties do I need to set? So it's very flexible. Those coming from the web will just pick it up. But one of the advantages of adopting or paradigms from the web is there is already existing documentation. There's a lot of online tools that explains what is Flexbox and lets you, similar to what QuizU does, lets you experiment with some of the values so you can figure it out in a more interactive way what all these different properties do. But how would you describe it, Manu?
For me, it's like you said, like the Flexbox is just another way to think about your layout and to be able to manage those elements. Like I remember playing with other designer tool like Figma or Sketch at the time, or even early days Photoshop and Illustrator, and not having the option to organize element. And especially when you're thinking about game UI, you have so much thing to think about that is a variable that is actually going to be real data. So to be able to actually design constraints early on so that you can accommodate for any type of length for text, for example, is super huge. And I don't know if I'm correct or not, but I believe that we have also support for advanced settings in UI Toolkit right now for languages that are written from right to left. And so being able to have all of this constraint taken into account in your layout early on can help you very much in the future when you do localization for your game in other languages.
Yeah, that's a very good point, because one particularity is that normally parents will set the boundaries and the flex rules, but with Flexbox, children can also influence some of the layouts as you have elements that grow in size, like you mentioned, like your text. Then it can push things around if you let it do so, but you can still always come up with some boundaries. But yeah, it's very flexible.
And I love the fact that this project it's basically like a playground, like a sandbox of different Flexbox settings. Like for example, if we wanted to get all of these objects and I don't want them to wrap around the parent, it's just all right, cool. I'm just gonna keep rendering all of it, even if they go outside. If I go ahead and wrap in reverse, well then, bam, there you go. and now it actually went down because it's actually uh, there we go. Now you can actually and you can order things whether in column or in row. You can actually do like column reverse, reverse, so that way you can actually see how you so basically you could use this project, have it open on the side, especially when you're first learning and starting out, and like sort of like playing
Hmm.
with the elements to sort of have like a cool little guide right here. And same thing with the justification, and like whether you want things centered, you want them at the end, you want them at the start, and the reason why and I believe that the reason why, even though I show flex start, but it's actually going to the ends, because I believe I have it like wrap reverse. So let me actually go ahead and practice and make sure. And yes, there we go.
It works.
Yeah, we go. Now it's flexing to the start, and now it actually went to the start because I'm not reversing it. And now I love it. Oh, I see. So you actually modifying the actual parent width and height over here, like so you can go ahead and mess around with it and learn. And like I mentioned, like this, I feel that like organizing your items and organizing the Flexbox is something fundamental. But I feel that like you definitely need to practice a lot to like fully get it. And to be perfectly honest, like uh, 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 I'm not a master on it. I'm not a master on it, but at the same time, it's awesome that we have this resource that you can go ahead and
It feels
come
very
back and review. It's
very
pretty.
intuitive.
Yeah.
I love that. Someone in the chat, FW Corey, said that the Flexboxes are a great tool for migrating editor tools from ImGUI to UI Toolkit.
Very true.
Yes.
Very true.
So well, so we're not going to necessarily go like through all that, but at the very least, we have to go through different USS styles. And this, oh, I remember this, like this one, I love the fact that like this sample, this scene, uh, contains not only like this is a button, this is like the default button, the default style. This is like nothing added whatsoever.
Hmm.
Now, when you go ahead and hover over over this button over here, it actually shows the actual style, the USS style, the set, and basically basically showing how is it and why is it that it's being shown in this way, including all of the properties. And in fact, I'm gonna go ahead and Manu, let's actually also see it in the UI builder.
Yeah,
How about
that's one of the things I love the most about UI Toolkit is the UI builder. Like this interface feels very like home for people like me that comes from UI design, and having the inspector on the right, like on Unity, but also your hierarchy on the left. So it still makes sense if you come from the editor, but at the same time, I love the screen space and how you can organize all of your different elements and see, like you said, with the preview. So let's get a look into it.
heck yeah? So before I actually do that, I wanted to like show like one thing. So this is the actual scene that that gets played when you go into the USS demo, and here we have a USS Styles demo and a game object, and it's well, particularly a prefab. So one thing when you're rendering your UXML and your USS, which are text files, you're like, how the heck does that actually get into the game scene? Well, then this UI document component is like the main entry point, so that your UI your text files like basically get interpreted and then eventually get rendered into the screen as part of it. So if you go and the way that you set it up is that you have some panel settings to control how the UI is rendered, which is basically very similar to how in UGUI you still have to modify some of those canvas controls when you and how you render the UI. So there's still some of that workflow even from UGUI when you're going into UI Toolkit. So you still have that accessibility and those settings. But
Yeah, but the difference here is we made a choice of having the panel setting being an asset that can be referenced by different panel between different UI documents. So they can all share the same setting and it can be all batched together. So there's a lot of performance consideration also that went into that.
That is very correct. And if you go here, I'm actually opening the panel settings right now, so you might even see stuff that you might recognize, like the target display, like where we're gonna be rendering this, and then even if you wanted to render to a particular render target, the scale mode, and if you scale match with width or height, like what aspect ratio or what resolution do you want to match, stuff that you still set on your GUI, but like Benoit mentioned, like in an actual asset file that can actually be shared and referenced by multiple UIs, or then somebody else can like duplicate it and add like a variation on those on those render panel settings.
Yep.
Corey,
And there's also
again.
that.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead first.
Okay, if you can go back to the panel settings, please.
Sure.
What do you? Esteban, there's the dynamic atlas setting.
My bad.
No worries.
There we go.
And not many people know about this dynamic atlas settings section. What it does is, of course, you can still use the 2D sprite atlas, just like you do the new GUI, to kind of pack all your textures into a single atlas, which reduces draw calls, which is a good performance consideration. But you don't have to. So UI Toolkit will, on a panel basis, pick all of the textures that get referenced when the UI gets created and do that atlasing automatically for you. So it's going to optimize by default your draw calls. So,
and by the way, for those asking before, this is also in the panel settings that you would display the text or the UI, whether it is on the target display being on the screen or in the world space. So the second drop down is, I believe, which is called target display at the top, is where you would actually choose world space if you want it.
Not on this one, because I'm in 6.1.
Oh, right. You're not up to date. What?
No. But the other project that we're going to show is...
No, I know. Actually, fun fact, someone in the chat, Fredo, mentioned, he was like, Esteban missed his homework.
No.
And quick other two comments that I just saw passing. Corey saying that he had a unhealthy addiction to UI Toolkit for editor tools since building with it years ago. And he says that it can also be placed in a package for things like organization-wide standardization of editor tools. So thanks for sharing that with the community, Corey. He said that applies to USS documents as well for style consistency. And Christian Palma saying, I've always liked web design, so I think I will really like UI Toolkit. Yes, indeed. I believe that it's a almost horizontal skill mapping. If you're a web designer or web developer, if you played with CSS and HTML before, it's very easy to understand the same lingo, the same messages, like margin, padding, and all of that.
And also for version control. Whenever we have like merge conflicts, like that's one of the pros. That's one of the pros. Like fixing a merge conflict in a UXML file versus an actual .unity scene file. Oof. I'll take a text. I'll take the conflict in the text file any day. So again, pros and cons, like Manu mentioned. Like this is we're talking about the different pros today of UI Toolkit, but obviously, UGUI definitely like a very, very well solution that you can definitely use, especially if you're more used to it. But we're dedicating this live stream to UI Toolkit. Okay, so moving on, and you might see like, oh, why is this all like scrambled and scattered like that? Well, actually, you can go ahead and actually resize and adjust your canvas to work with. So it might look a little bit scrambled up here, but check it out. If we go ahead and select on the hierarchy the way that I have it there, and the inspector not only lets you do this match game view. There we go. Now things look a little bit more cleaned up, like we were. And although you cannot, you wouldn't be able to see it right now because this fully covers the screen, but you can actually have like your canvas background, and you even can add inside of the inspector, you could even add a reference to the camera, so that way you can get like the backend, what you see from the actual scene camera. Although
which can be super useful if you're doing a screen space interface and you don't want to hide certain other elements, or you want to think around your character and things like that, I guess.
Heck yes. So
Some
Diving.
people also use the image one, the second one. So if you have a reference from
Oh,
a
yes.
mock-up from your designers and you want to replicate this, so you can set
Nice.
that as a background.
I guess
That
you
is
want
super useful if you want to overlay the actual design on top of a mockup or wireframes, which again is in the best practices section, but highly recommended to start with that. Like nothing beats a pen and paper when you're trying to start something.
exactly. Actually, gonna set this to no right here. Okay. So now we actually are seeing the same UI in the UI builder, and you might be wondering like, okay, but where's the text that we were seeing earlier? Well, remember, this is just the visual side of it. This is just the data that is used to display. Now, the actual text of the tutorial gets sent over on the C# side of things, and when you run the scene at runtime. So this is just like
So
placeholder.
placeholder, good old
Exactly.
Lorem Ipsum.
Exactly. Now, another cool thing about it is that if you wanted to test your UI purely on the visual side, you don't have to actually hit play on the editor. You can actually just hit preview, and you can go ahead and see like your actual different stylings, different choices uh, that you see. So you can, if you wanted to modify a little bit of the style, you can go ahead and hover over the buttons or do whatever you like and test the UI. Now, of course, some stuff like different like button clicks or might not necessarily work because again, it's not like the full game with the UI setup, but one thing you can do, let me go ahead and like see if we can go ahead and find a specific button. Let's send this one over here, demo area, and
But Noah, while Esteban is doing this, a quick question from Ranuka. Is there a way to temporarily hide elements while you're building so you can see the reference image easier?
No, unfortunately. So this is something we will add in the short future because there's the visibility right now is tied to the actual visibility display options of the elements. Like, it's not like an editing only concept. So yeah, thanks for the
Good to know.
feedback.
Yeah, thank you, Ranuka, for that. And also, if you guys have more feedback, feel free to drop in the chat. We'll make sure to share the transcript with our team.
So one thing over here, like for example, you see this element, you see all this actual data right here. This is information about a particular particular piece of the structure or an element, interactable element. If you didn't want to see so much information, or if you wanted to like add more, you can actually show the type of element that it is. Like for example, we have all these buttons here. You can even show the attached styles or the class list. Now, so I'm gonna go ahead and reduce it a little bit. Let's focus on this blue button right here, which we can go ahead and test with the modify the styles a little bit. So this, as you can see, this blue button has this USS class or selector called dot blue button. And in fact, whenever you hover over these selectors, the UI builder shows you what selectors or what classes are actually modifying which elements. So, for example, when I go here over this one blue button, like I mentioned, it's this button right here. So you can see that when I go ahead and hover, it actually has something like this white border, white color, right? So if I go ahead and modify the hover section, you go ahead and see that there's this border right here, this border property on the right selected. So if I go ahead and let's say, for example, I modified the width. Let's say something like 94 pixels. I can say go ahead and ridiculously set it. So
This is the best hover animation I've ever seen.
Exactly.
Approved. Ship it.
Exactly. So of course, let me go ahead and set that to how it was, or you can go ahead and modify something like that, like the actual colors of the border. Now, the bottom one, as you can see, I'm gonna increase a little bit, maybe not go that far as before. And as you can see now, the button, whenever I actually go ahead and hover over it, that's when the green new setting shows up. And we go ahead and set that over to how it was. If not, I'll go a little bit crazy. But as you can see, not only do you have like these selectors that modify the style of things when they're default, but also when you have like these pseudo states of like whenever the button is active, whenever it's on hover. So it's a lot of exploration. It's a lot of exploration that you can definitely do on the more visual side of things.
Also, what's useful, because when you hover these styles, right, that you say, well, you can see where they applied in the actual viewport. So when you go over the styles on the left in the
yes. Oh,
right there, yeah. So you see like all these colors that gets on overlay, like you see orange and green. Is like, what is this? So this is not an artifact. This is actually showing you information about the box, like the margins and the padding they're using. So sometimes it's useful to like, why is that space? Where does it come from? So when you mouse over it, you can actually see what
it's
are
a
those.
Q&A option almost. Yeah.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, so if I'm not mistaken, like remind me, Benoit, the orange one, if I'm not mistaken, is actually
That would be the margin.
The margin.
The margin, correct. There we go. Benoit, like real quick, remember, like what's the difference between having like the margin and the border?
So the border is the actual like the thickness of the line of the element. The margin is space that you want around your element. Like you say in a container, you want, hey, I don't want my elements to be touching or be too close to themselves. And the padding is the same, but for the inside of the element. When you push the content.
That's the current yellow/green overlay, and you can see how the text has the padding so that it remains within this kind of padded. It's like you're putting pads around you basically, and the margin is like how far are you from something else.
Correct.
So definitely,
I always got confused between those two when I was like starting in CSS in like 2007. It's amazing to see that those words have stuck and that they are still being used in the lingo. So if you've learned, again, CSS, you can easily transition, like same for hover, active, all of those states and pseudo states that Esteban mentioned, like those are the same that you will see in CSS. And actually, it's a very good kind of feel-good comment we got from Mistra on Twitch, but she was saying, or he, I'm personally very thrilled about this because I always wanted to do a Mafia Wars game. I always felt that including the Chromium was difficult for the user and that Windows Forms and Silverlight was obsolete and didn't want to do Electron. So felt like the UI Toolkit replaces a lot of that. And if they want to do an app or a game mainly using web-style UI, that's now achievable. And that's very true. Like I've seen people on Reddit making entire operating systems mockups, like remaking almost like a Windows style OS for their games and entirely made with UI Toolkit. So there's a lot of cool capabilities. Like this QuizU sample is an entire game made from a UI. There's no actual 3D scene. It's just the interface.
There's no exactly. Like so far we haven't seen any, and even when I was playing with this, I never saw like actual like 3D geometry like on it, unless there's a hidden scene somewhere. Like there's like a boss, there's like a bonus level that they included like an Easter egg or something. But yeah. So going back into the actual QuizU, like this one's actually pretty cool. Like again, like definitely check it out like when you have some time, and this fully available. But here we also a part of UI Toolkit, we actually have like a vector API feature that actually lets you render like either lines or actually like some of these 2D polygons. And if we go ahead and continue here, we actually see this other part of the demo. It actually has this little animation that shows and draws 4 points and then renders and fills in this area. But you even have like a little modifiable interactable Bezier curve uh, Bezier curve editor for in case you wanted to display any kind of like 2D curves. Imagine that somebody was doing like their own custom animation controller, or maybe like uh, expanding upon an animation controller, and you wanted to apply a certain interpolation curve, like using these kind of values, and it's really cool. And or you actually, if you want something more uh, like a linear interpolation, you actually can draw these kind of values like this. And if you think about it, this sort of resembles uh, like the interpolation values of like the line render, and perhaps even on the timeline. So it's pretty cool. And
Yeah, we've seen some, of course, for usage for I want to make charts, right? If you want to have like pie charts or line charts, or some have been using this, and when you have these complex skill trees screens, when you want to have lines between all different nodes, so you can use the Vector API for that as well. It's very very flexible.
And
Ranoka says it sounds very useful for custom editor tools.
yes, indeed. um, now the other feature that I wanted to at least talk about, like data binding. How in Unity UI Toolkit, you actually have like a direct way of tying data to the UI. So in the past, you actually needed to go on the C# code and say, okay, every time if you click on a particular button, or if you wanted to like update a progress bar or something based on the value of something, based on the value of some variable, you actually had to go ahead and write the code for it. And it became a little bit a little bit of an boilerplate, or like could be like repetitive code. But in UI Toolkit now, you actually have like automatic data bindings. And there's a particular project, we're seeing the feature a little bit here, but there's a particular project that I was showing earlier that I would like to dive into,
Yes.
written by our own Eduardo Ore. So same team that made the QuizU project. And while that is opening, I'm going to go ahead and free up some resources in my computer by closing the other project.
And I'm actually going to link the project, the discussions from you mentioned earlier, Esteban, from the
Yes.
project you're going to show. So Eduardo's from our team has been working on this project, which Esteban is going to show. But I think the value of this is to be able to not only play with the interface like on QuizU that you just saw, but also being able to tie variables and have them in real time. So we're going to see that right now.
So here we have in this in this project, this again the simple UI, like that is set up, again, all of it made with UI Toolkit, of course. And as you can see, we have in our scene like our main camera, a 2D light, and we have our UI document that shows the UI. But then we have this game object data script right here, and as you can
That's
see,
the data binding.
Exactly. So,
But as a data source.
exactly. Sorry. Exactly. So it is bound. It is bound over the UI, and the data source is set on the C# script, but the data binding is directly built into the UI itself. So, for example, if I go ahead and say like, "Hello, Benoit and Manu," I can go ahead and change this. And as you can see, we have like this list sample right here. And let's say, for example, the first one, this little green gem with the value -4.33. So gonna go ahead, modify that, and see the changes set up, applied in real time right there.
Love that.
Or if we go ahead and change the color, and same thing.
Thank you, because I didn't like this green. Also, the bull said Eduardo's team seems to be killing it. Yes, indeed.
Yes, they are. Ooh, yes, they are.
They are
I don't know
killing
what they're doing recently, but they've been putting.
Also, I know
more and
some
more
of you are dropping right now, but if you're interested into XR, we have another demo after that where we're going to show you how to play with World Space UI in the context of a VR game as well.
Yes, yes, indeed. Okay, so Now, real quick, I wanted to like actually show how the data is actually bound. So we go to the UI document and we go into the source asset. Here we have here here we have the UI element, and as you can see, let me go ahead and find one. Like for example, the label right here, the one when I said like, "Hey, hello, Benoit and Manu." If we go ahead and see on the on the text attribute right here, might be a little bit small, but uh, there's like a little cylinder next to the text. And if we go ahead, we can go ahead and right click it, and we say like edit binding. Now, when you go ahead and do that, the binding, I can actually set it based on either a kind of object. So you could even use this for like scriptable objects or a type of class. Now, and you can actually go ahead and select what kind of type of class. Now, in this one, it is actually called data class, just like that. Very simple and straight to the point. And once you go ahead and select the class, you can go ahead and say choose the actual string field that is tied to it. And just like that, once you actually set the data source over the script, I'm actually gonna go ahead and show that real quick. So let's go ahead and discard the changes and go into the game object data, into the data sample. Let's go into the edit script right here. So the same way that binding was done, like the other bindings were done in a similar way. But if we go into the data sample right here, there we go. This line right here. When you go ahead and we actually find when we actually hit the awake function, we get the component of the UI document, we get the data source, and we set this my data object, and we just set it as data source. And that right there, once you run that line, basically all of the bindings kick in, and the data is tied. Like very simple example. Definitely recommended that y'all check it out, and it's part of the links of the resources that we share. But yes.
Yeah, the binding system is a very complex system. It's fully extensible. We did a talk in 2023 when we introduced the data binding. It's all covered also in documentation. You can create your own types. You can override sources at different levels of the UI. So it's very flexible.
But I think that with that we kind of did like a good intro overview and show some resources where people can get started.
Thanks a lot, Esteban. Shall we get into UI UX best practices? Maybe
yes, please.
Quick overview. All right, so I don't have slides per se for this section, but I just wanted to share some learnings from 15 years of having been a UI UX designer, product designer. I've worked from desktop, mobile, console, TV experiences, Apple Watch or other type of wearable, and specifically XR in the last 10 years. So I have kind of this very versatile background where I've been a designer at Unity before becoming an advocate. But of course, I have also development experiences. So some of the learnings that I've had in those two areas can be applied to people either getting started with UI Toolkit, like you might be right now, or if you're transitioning from UGUI, or if you're really just staying on UGUI. I would say those big takeaways that still apply to design in general. So we also have the ebook that I will be sharing in the chat during the resource section. The ebook contains a lot of good tips for game developers. So here's some of the takeaways. UI is fundamental. A well-designed UI is seamlessly integrated, and a poor one can frustrate your players. So don't leave that for the end. It's something that is core to your game. It's not an afterthought, something you should be focusing on. Collaboration is key. You might not be someone that has all of the skill set in one tool. A UI artist might be more the focus for your visuals. You might be working with UX designers for the user behavior and the flow, and developers for everything about the implementation. Maybe the animation side might need a motion designer. So you might have someone that does all of that. And nowadays, product designer usually have a good understanding of all of these different functions, but be able to work with other type of people is really important. UI Toolkit is definitely one of the things that are focusing on in the future at Unity. It's recommended for most modern runtime UIs due to its performance, scalability, and adaptive layouts. We just saw the Flexbox earlier, for example. But UGUI still has it's used for like simpler or specific in-world UIs. And then in top of the top UI design tips for game developers, so the number one that I keep hearing about is to try to match the UI to your game identity. I mentioned the diegetic UI in world, like Dead Space, having the health bar as part of the spine, as part of the suit of the character for deep immersion. That can be something that make your game very unique, right? So think about the UI being something that is not necessarily just a flat 2D interface that you slap on the screen. It can be something that lives with the world. If you're making a simulation and you have a bunch of animals running in a field, having the health bar on each of those different animals, as opposed to having the interface in a long list on the side, can help you also make it more clear and specialized to the object that you want to highlight. Ensure that the interface is clear, also very important, that it's readable and appropriate for the situation. Think about accessibility. Not everybody will be able to have the same color system, so you have to think about using the right colors, playing with contrast, the same rules that applies in web design, right? Like you want to make sure that if you're putting something very light, you won't put it on a white background because that's going to be hard to read. But you have to think beyond that. Like accessibility goes beyond just clarity and readability. It's also visual hierarchy, thinking about the size of your text or size of your element. The goal is to really just guide the player's eyes toward what's important, but you don't want the interface to be what they're focusing on, unless your game is really interface based. But you want to, as much as possible, less is more, right? So you want to remove UI elements that are not key to your game. And in this case, for example, it can be easy to just start to think about text and have a lot of text everywhere. But really, it takes a lot of cognitive load to just be able to read all of these elements, especially if there are variables that are moving left and right. So think about icons, smart layout, to be able to reduce this kind of focus so that people can really just focus on the game or the goal that they're trying to achieve. And when I say game, that also applies to industry, right? Like you might be making a car interface or for driver, or you might be thinking of an architecture digital twin interface, and you want to be able to have a lot of data on the screen. So in this case, UI Toolkit can help you really match a very nice design that comes from Figma or Photoshop or whatever other tools you might be using. Optimize for performance, right? So asset preparation, it's important to design at the highest target resolution and then scale it down. You can use the 9-slice stretching and sprite atlases to reduce draw calls and memory. On the UGUI side, you can divide complex UI into multiple canvases that can optimize for CPU updates. And for UI Toolkit, naturally, it is more performant with complex UI due to the retainable graphics. So you have the choice here, right? Responsiveness and adaptability. So the wireframe early was a comment we meant before. It's important to start with pen and paper. I like to work with pencils because it's more free. You're just dumping your idea on a piece of paper. If you're working with other people, consider whiteboarding tools, but take screenshots of those early drawings because they can really set the foundation for your interface at the end of your game. So being able to think about that at the beginning in a very simple, box drawing, it doesn't have to be good. You don't need to be an artist to be able to draw, right? But just something that can give you an idea early on of the different target devices. If you're working for mobile, for PC, or for console, obviously the layout will be different from portrait to landscape to the size of the screen or the ratio in width and height. So it's good to be able to know about that early on. What else? We have the Flexbox layout that can help you with the structure and so on. We talked about the canvas scaler for UGUI. And finally, maintaining consistency and reusability. So the style guide is really for that. Create your document, specify the colors, the fonts, the icon, the element, even the animation. A lot of people are starting to add animation as part of the style guide. This doesn't need to exist only in Unity. I think for projects, games that you're trying to build, that can help you for your marketing. Maybe when you're going to make a trailer for your game, you want to be able to use the same font that the font you're using inside of the game. Or if you're making a website, or if you're publishing on Steam or in another platform, you might want to have the colors that you're using in the game reflected outside. So creating this document early on, even if it's empty and you're just adding to it as you go, can be something that accompany you. I don't know if you remember when I used to play video games as a kid, we used to have the box for the game. So even just the manual of your game, the guides to how to play the game, or the interface for the menu and so on. All of these things needs to be consistent. That will bring a lot of love to your game. Reusable elements. So you have the prefab concept for your GUI, or the UXML template, and the style sheets for UI Toolkit. So these different things allow you to reuse element and to apply a style overall. And naming conventions. Implement a clear naming convention at the beginning, because the visual elements, even though it's very simple at the beginning, that can get to a very complex state eventually. And that will help you on the code readability as well if you have this naming convention figured out early. And the last point, and I'll make it the last one before we go back to screen with everybody else, play, test, and iterate a lot, right? That's the same design mentality as for game development. You don't want to be working hours into your interface and then figure it out after multiple days that nothing is working the way you want. That's why we have the preview section. That's why we're able to have the overlay like we saw earlier with the camera or a mock-up. Do these tests, do the gaming test, and do the play test. Send it to a friend, maybe a friend that's speaking a different language. Try the localization early to see if the space that you've created for a text box can accommodate German or Japanese language as opposed to just English. So yeah, that's, I think, covers it all for everything in terms of best practices. And I'll make sure to write those information as well in the chat so you can have them handy. But yeah, we can go back to the screen with everybody else.
Heck yeah.
Very good tips. Thank you.
Anything else that you guys might have encountered that you want to add to this?
Obviously, the playtesting. Like that's the one that like speaks to my heart a lot. Playtesting, making sure like you can be super sure of everything, especially when you're so close to your project and you just don't have that outside perspective. And somebody comes in and you might believe that you have like the best menu in the world, or basically anything, the best mechanic in the world. Once somebody gets that controller or that keyboard and starts messing with it, that's when you start, like, that illusion breaks, So playtest often, playtest early. QA is amazing, definitely.
What about you, Benoit?
Yeah, I think you touched on this. Is start thinking about like your naming convention, but also how you're gonna define your styling and your structure of your UI. So as you start building with that, when you end up later in the production, you need to make changes. These are very efficient to make because all of these are based on reusable pieces that share the same styling options or whatnot. So otherwise, you need to go through all of your UI and then make all these changes, and then it's going to drive you nuts. And then this is where you also can run into, I forgot that one, and then you lose your consistency that you mentioned, which is key for the experience.
The Bull on YouTube, one of our most followed member of the live stream, said, make sure to put the exit game button and to bury it 7 menus deep. We've seen games that do that. It's not fun, indeed. So yeah, thinking about your menu and not just making it an infinite list, and thinking about how much clicks does it take to get to the most important part of your interface. Think about people with accessibility issues, right? Like people that needs to have the reading mode. You don't want the person to have to struggle through all of your interfaces to find the thing that help them use your game. If not, they will deinstall it the second after, right?
And test with that audience, right? Because you're not necessarily the best suited to experiment those.
That is the key point, right? Like, you're making the game obviously because you love it, and usually you make the game for yourself, and then you hope the world will love it. But if you think about your user base at the very beginning and you make it accessible, you'll realize that not a lot of games are accessible. So being a game that is accessible can also put you ahead of a certain category. Someone said in the chat, really helpful tips. I always test, but haven't thought about testing how other languages look on the UI. That comes from Hallie Cat Pause. Yes, and I think I mentioned it before, but there is an advanced mode in UI Toolkit that allow you to test for that. So you can actually try Arabic or Japanese language or any Asian languages that goes from right to left. It's called RTL,
Yes.
right to
Yes.
left.
And if you use the localization package as well, now it works with UI Toolkit and it works with UGUI as well.
Nice.
So you can easily switch between different languages. It also has like pseudo languages, so you can test with Germany always takes much more space, so you can try with different variations of lengths, and you can see how your UI will react and if it's solid enough to handle these changes.
Would I guess I have like a request from the chat, like I guess a thumbs up or something, like if y'all will be interested on an actual live stream dedicated to localization, like that, or having like a good demo
Mhm.
of it. But
Yeah, and we'll also have a talk on a session at Unite this year on accessibility and localization.
Amazing. I highly recommend people that are joining to watch it. We had one, I believe, Esteban, for RTL languages in Abu Dhabi when we did the U Day
correct,
last year.
Mm.
Really
That was-
enjoyed that. Just even realizing that those options exist, because sometimes they end up part of a huge list of updates for a new version, and you don't necessarily go into it until you need it. So to be able to highlight more on the big stage is very nice. Thanks, Benoit.
nice. All right.
Shall we get into world space? Is that the
Heck
time?
yes, I
Let's do it.
believe it's time, and I got my final project going on. So, okay, so quick note. Even though that we are gonna be showing like World Space UI here on VR, this is the VR. So basically, we're kind of like hitting two outcomes with one goal. I don't want to poor burst. Everybody says like killing two birds with one stone. Like no. Let's leave out that balance behind. So we are going to be showing World Space UI Toolkit in VR, but yes, you can use it in regular games. It's not just for XR. It's just that we can cover both. But okay, so how the project that I'm actually going to show you is part of a tutorial that I wrote on, like, and we're going to share it as well on how you actually replicate the result that you're going to see. But the first step is that, of course, for this one, we are going to strictly use Unity 6.2 or above, and we're going to be selecting the VR template. If anybody here hasn't checked out whether the VR or the VR multiplayer templates, these are amazing templates, pre-made. They work right out of the box, including also this one, which are the mixed reality, the mixed reality offline, and the mixed reality tabletop template. These templates are amazing. They have everything set up for you, and you can easily start uh, modifying them and adding your own gameplay. But
we had a live stream not too long ago, I
yes,
think a month ago, on the subject, so you can find them as well on the YouTube from Unity.
and the mixed reality one is Manu is the one I use for the internal the hack week that we had.
Nice, awesome.
Yeah. So okay, so over here when we go ahead and select the project, make sure you don't like I mentioned in the tutorial, you don't actually need to create a cloud project, so you can just keep it as a local project and then just give it whatever name, create it, and you're all good. Okay, now going into the actual project, this is most likely the scene that you're gonna the first thing that you're gonna see, but as part of the XRI package, you actually have samples. Oh, there we go. I got mixed up all of a sudden. So you can actually import the samples from the XRI package, and there is in particular a World Space UI sample. And by the way, just to make sure that I properly cover it, let me go into the into the packages section. Wait a little bit until it's still being refreshed. Go into XRI Toolkit, and here on the sample section, you will find you will find many samples that you can import. And here we have the World Space UI. So I got it already imported in my project. Let's go ahead and check it out real quick. So if you go ahead and open the folder, man, I am really missing the clicks today.
You're okay.
I am missing the mouse clicks today. Okay, here we go. Here we have in this scene two different UI setup. I mean, very similar setups, but they're very different. Like I
To
love this.
recap, you went from creating a project from scratch, opening a sample scene that already exists, and
Correct.
then downloading an additional sample that is now available in the 6.2 version for UI Toolkit so that we can compare UGUI to UI Toolkit World Space.
That is that is very correct. And also, and I covered how to set it up, but here in this project, we're actually going to be using the very cool XR simulator. This so if you don't have an XR device, yes, obviously it's a little bit more limited because having an XR device, controlling in real time is a little bit easier. But if you didn't have one, there is a way for you to test a VR project using this cool VR simulator. Now, as you can see, we are interacting here with the with the UGUI side of the UI. So as you can see, we can go ahead and sorry about that. I am scrambling today.
Obviously, you're not using a VR headset, so we have to also.
I have more practice with the VR headset itself, and I actually freaking ran this before we joined the live stream. But let's actually go into the UI toolkit. So
nice.
When you go ahead, you can go ahead and rotate your head up and down using the up and down arrows from the keyboard. Rotate your head sideways, and then eventually you can also by pressing the Y, and I believe is you go ahead and tap. There you go. It was the little those little cursors right here, and you can modify and
we can see that they interact with the hover.
Exactly. You can move the controllers. I am holding the shift key right now and interacting with the UI.
This is quite impressive. Never tried this for VR, so it's amazing to see you can actually test it without a headset.
And you can actually grab. Yes, I did it. Yes. And move the stuff around.
Amazing.
Actually, I had no idea, so that's pretty. Yeah.
And you can actually toggle back and forth. I told you that I practiced a little bit.
Good job, Esteban. I think people are starstruck in the comments. Corey is asking, is this using a render texture, or do we have a new world space UI document component?
Oh no, we have an actual UI document around. So actually, if I remember correctly, there are actually multiple of them. So for example, the header, I believe is this one right here. It says XRI plus UI Toolkit, and then we have the little scroll view. Yes, it is another UI document. So it is the same. It is the same kind of workflow that we saw before. And not only that, going back to that, kind of like a callback to the panel settings that we were talking about earlier. If we go here, we see if we can click on the now the panel settings, the thing that
now that we're in 6.2.
Now exactly. Now that we're in 6.2, we can see that the render mode, you can change the render mode from screen space or world space. So basically that simple change. Remember when Benoit said, "Oh, you have your panel settings that you can actually multiple UIs can refer to them." So and I mentioned, okay, somebody can go ahead and duplicate and modify them slightly. So if you go ahead and you have a perfectly working screen space panel settings, and if you wanted to be able to render world space, you literally do this single click right here, and bam, it'll render in world space. In world space, and then any world space UI could actually refer to those panel settings, unless you wanted to refer to another modified version of those world space panel settings. Okay.
And yes, it's not using render texture. I mean, if you if there's a way you can zoom on the actual, like bring that panel very close to the camera
Let me.
with your magic there.
Uh,
Oh,
oh, wait, because I'm holding the.
there you go.
There we go.
Can you bring it? So
Yes.
as you can see, this is everything is drawn using UI Toolkit. The RK renderer, everything remains smooth, and the lines are super sharp. So nothing using render texture.
Nice. So you're like, all right, cool. That's a pre-made scene. But like, what if I wanted to, I wanted to actually, reuse this, like move this? So I found when I was actually exploring that you would need to add a copy over like the UI Toolkit sample and the panel in input configuration and this object, this XRI toolkit manager. That this actually on the back end actually enables a UI toolkit to be used with XRI.
Love it.
And the panel input configuration, like because world space, you can interact with it like I just showed you, but you don't necessarily need to interact with world space UI. You could just display data. But if you wanted to interact with it, you would need this panel input configuration file.
Right.
Benoit, any particular information that you wanted to add about the input configuration file?
No, not really. Like you said, it's really to kind of bridge the because otherwise, UI Toolkit responds differently to input because you don't need necessarily to raycast since you're not necessarily in 3D. So you need to consider all these different aspects when bringing UI Toolkit to world space. Hence why we have some other little components like that we need to add into your scene. But thanks for covering them. That's very.
Corey
very
said that's so much nicer than render textures or custom meshes. Indeed. We're really proud of this. I think this is going to help a lot of developers.
Indeed. So let's go back into the yes, I believe this is from the sample scene because this is the last scene we're going to play. Go ahead and see that this is the main sample scene that you'll see when you play. You can go ahead, like circle around. In fact, this UI right here, this one is actually made with UGUI. So again, showing you that please, if you prefer UGUI, like it's all good. There are multiple ways of like creating your UI, but you have also UI Toolkit as well. So if we go ahead and turn around slowly. Oh, and by the way, the sample it actually has like grabbable objects that are ready for you to go. So I'm gonna go ahead and tab again and go ahead and select this one. Oh, this one in particular is not grabbable. I believe that these on the there we go, interactables right here. So bam, there we go. Yes, but all of these elements are already done and set up for you. So if somebody here has never tried XR before, honestly, like this is a incredibly useful starting point.
Yeah. It's a great playground as well, just to have fun and test different situations too.
Heck yes, like I've actually seen people win hackathons with this sample by just using the sample. Okay.
Ranuka says super impressive. Thank you. So quick question, Esteban, is there more you wanted to show here, or should we go to the Q&A before?
No. So basically wanted to show that like you have the same UI that you have here that I showed earlier, but I went ahead and managed and brought over, like I mentioned, the UI Toolkit sample, the XR UI Toolkit manager, and the panel input configurator. Went ahead and copy that, place it over here, and bam, we can interact with it the same way as before. But with that, I think that we covered World Space UI as well. And
super straightforward.
Yes, very indeed.
How accessible it is also for just new beginners, people that have never used the tool before. I know we have complained sometimes that Unity live streams are getting too much into the advanced and intermediary content, but we're trying to make it as interesting for everyone. So also feel free to continue to share the feedback in the comment. It's very appreciated. But before we wrap up, I just wanted to also give us a chance to answer some questions from the community. So I've noted some already in the chat, but feel free to drop more, whether you're on Twitch or YouTube. And of course, the video is always available in video on demand after that, so you'll be able to rewatch it later. So very early on, we had a question from an engineer saying, is there a way to display a UGUI element within UI Toolkit, like visuals only? Because there is no tool to make graphs in UI Toolkit in store yet, I believe.
So you can use UGUI and UI Toolkit in the same project by side. Like you cannot really like embed UGUI content in UI Toolkit and vice versa, because they're kind of really separate systems. What you could do though is rely on render textures, right? So you can output to the content of one and then use it as a background image in UI Toolkit, right? So that's a workaround you could use.
Awesome. The Bull says, this has been great. Nice work, guys, from Uber Mammal.
Thank you, the Bull.
Samurai Dev saying, hey, nice to see you, Esteban, Manuel, and Benoit. Greetings from Denmark. Really appreciate the love we're getting in the chat today. Also, I've noticed a lot of people also just chatting between each other and giving each other help on specific use cases and questions that people have had in the past. So it's one of the things that I love the most about the Unity community.
It remains our greatest asset.
Right? I'm learning mostly during these live streams. This is, yes, we're sharing stuff, but I'm learning a lot. Lem said, is there a roadmap for what new features are coming to UI Toolkit?
Yes. So there's the public roadmap, and we last week we just posted an update on what's coming in 6.3, which is currently available in the alpha, on alpha build 5, I believe.
Amazing. And I just linked the link to the public roadmap. You can navigate in the different section of Unity inside it. There's public roadmap specifically for XR and so on. So feel free to look into that. Divina saying, great presentation. Thank you. Can you give us a question from Carl? Can you give us a little insight on how to handle data with WorldSpace UI? I naively put a UI document on my unit prefab to display health, but only the first unit's visual are updated. What am I missing? So that's a bit specific. Unless, Esteban, you have a quick answer, we might need to get back on to you on this call. But you can ask in the discussions forum as well.
Yeah,
I believe that, Benoit, correct me if I'm wrong. So if you have, by the way, Corey Green, our fellow advocate as well, like he covered building a health bar in one of the live streams a few weeks ago. Incredibly good. I highly recommend it. But one of the ways that, Benoit, correct me if I'm wrong. If you have data binding set correctly to the health bar, I assume that like as soon as the game object, the enemy wakes up, and if they have like the little health bar floating, then it'll update in real time. And then if it goes to 0 or something, like you can do any code around it to like make sure that you clamp it between 0 and 100, for example. But it should work right out of the box if you bind it correctly. Am I correct in that, Benoit?
Yeah. So like Manu said, if you still can't figure it out, then feel free to post in discussion. Either some people of the team or the community should get you unblocked.
And I put the link in the chat as well for the feedback request post example on shaders and post-processing filters. But feel free to also look into these different platforms. Discussions is really the best place to ask questions because we have the entire team looking into it, not only advocates like me and Esteban, but people working on the different teams for specific projects. So it's not the same as like dropping a tweet or a message on Discord and you might be completely drawn into just the content that everybody's sharing constantly. Discussions is a really great forum and great space for that. Hallie Catpow saying, thank you. This was great. Appreciate you. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Corey saying, I highly encourage experimentation with custom elements. You will learn so much about the nuts and bolts. Absolutely. It's a great tip. I know Corey said he has tried to apply to Unity in the past. So you can always apply to Unity. We have a website with careers. And it's not because you didn't get the job in the past that you cannot reapply. Fun fact, I tried to join Unity in 2016, didn't get it. Reapplied in 2020, and now I'm here. So don't let that make you think you cannot join in the future. There's always new opportunities coming. Other question I've seen, Mistra, I think. I can't really use it at the moment since I'm in 2021.3, but I'd like the CSS like feature, even though at the moment I export my UI to JSON and make change directly in the JSON. So I don't have to place elements every time. Update, I just load from JSON like the Rust game does. Yeah, I mean, that's less of a question and more of a comment, but absolutely. I think if you go into Unity 6, you will see, first of all, it's one of the most stable update of the editor. So definitely try. Don't do it on your main repo, but, do a copy and try to migrate your game and see if you're able to do it without any hurdle. But I believe the UI Toolkit update is such a quality of life improvement as well. And if you're already seeing this kind of like comparison between CSS and the way that things are being done in UI Toolkit, it's a great opportunity to jump into it right now.
And I would say the Learn team, the Unity Learn team, they do amazing content, and there are courses both for UGUI and UI Toolkit as well. Like and Manu, we should definitely link those there. But
Yes.
but definitely, so again, like not only in terms of like supporting the product, but also in the educational content. We have been working on it as well. So shout out to the Learn team. They do an
I'm
amazing.
putting a link again to the QuizU Toolkit sample. Someone in the chat just said, let me read it. What is the best way to learn UI Toolkit? We also have ebooks.
Oh wait, Manu's
Chat, so I'll put it again.
Okay, we can hear you now. Yeah, the QuizU sample and the ebook we mentioned at the beginning are very good resources to get you started. Go over the fundamentals, and there's a lot of comparison between also with UI Toolkit and UUI, so you can transpose your knowledge. And then Unity Manual also has guides in the UI system sections for migrating from either IMGUI to UI Toolkit or UGUI to UI Toolkit. Kind of helps you do the mapping, because some concepts and some systems are different but similar. But so it helps you, like, how do I transpose my existing knowledge to this new system?
Amazing. Are you guys still hearing me? Everything is fine?
Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome.
Now you're good.
Last link in the chat. Esteban just shared a link to the Learn content project for creative core UI. And I would say one last thing before we close out. Unite is on November 19th and 20th. So if you haven't checked it out yet, grab your phone, scan this QR code, and come and have fun with us in this amazing annual event that Unity is always throwing. We're back in Barcelona this time from November 19th to 20th again. Unite.com/unite for more information. Thank you. And I believe that is all for today. I apologize if we couldn't get to all of your questions. There was so many of them, but hey, the good news is that you can always rewatch the screen. You can always watch the stream on the VOD. And again, discussions forum, best place to ask your question if you feel like we didn't answer some specific question you might have today, or if you want to ask for more stuff that come to your mind later on, discussions forum. So thank you again for joining us for this amazing stream. I promise Jackson will be back next time. He's just taking a vacation, and he wanted me to be there for hosting, so we don't just
You did great, man.
a week. Hopefully I did a good job. Yeah, thank you so much. But really, thank you, Benoit and Esteban, for joining us with their knowledge sharing. And thank you to you, the community, for helping each other out, for continuing to supporting us. And let us know what you want to see next. Continue to comment in the channel and on discussions. And see you next time.
Bye, everyone.
Take care, all.